All right, welcome to our training video on the optimization and performance excellence teams, uh, project portfolio, project central, um, new transition away from our previous Smartsheet way of tracking our projects. So I'm going to be going through kind of how to find everything that's new, how to edit things that you need, and making sure that you have everything to be successful using the tools. So the first thing that I want to show is how to get to these things. So we have created essentially SharePoint pages and Teams channels that are one and the same. So if you create a Teams group, then it also creates a SharePoint page. So I'm going to show you both how to access this through SharePoint and how you would access it through Teams. You should have access to both, and if not, you can reach out to me. So if you were to access this from SharePoint and didn't already have the link, what you can do is go to SHC Connect, click on the organization button. From here, we'll click on Revenue Cycle. And then from Revenue Cycle, you can click into Optimization or Performance Excellence. Both pages will have navigation you can utilize to access the Project Central page. So if I click into Optimization, you'll then see Optimization and Performance Excellence. So these are the specific teams pages within the optimization tower. So let's go ahead and click on Optimization. Again, if you click on Performance Excellence, you'll see links to this as well. But I'm going to click on Optimization. And then from here, you'll see this box that says Explore Optimization and Performance Excellence, Project Portfolios, Documentation, and Dashboards. That's what we want to take a look at. So we'll click on the Project Central button, and that'll take us to the Project Central page. So you may already have the link to this. If so, you can just navigate to Project Central directly, and that will take you there a lot easier. Definitely recommend bookmarking this so that you don't have to go through that navigation each time. Get to the Project Central SharePoint page. You will see just a brief introduction on the point of Project Central. So really, this is kind of a one-stop shop for all of our portfolio assets, and then a link to each of those assets. So our executive dashboard, that's going to be a Power BI report that contains a summary of our portfolio, all of the projects and workflow audits that are a part of it, as well as the metrics associated with that. So what are our benefit totals? How many projects do we have? What does our team capacity look like? And then we have our different portfolio views, which we'll go into each of these later, but we have our pipeline portfolio view. So it's going to be new projects that we're working on intakes for, our active projects, so those that we're actively working on, and then closed projects, so those that were either canceled, rejected, or completed and are now in an archive. We also have the same for our workflow audits, so active workflow audits and closed workflow audits. You'll notice that there's no pipeline workflow audits. The pipeline tab will contain both pipeline workflow audits and projects. And then we have a link to project documentation. So project documentation is actually going to take you to specific project channels to allow you to easily find things like charters, benefit estimates, kickoff decks, all that project documentation in one place. And then, of course, we have a link to request a new project. So moving away from the Smartsheet form, utilizing a Microsoft form instead, but that will look very similar. We also do have the executive dashboard embedded right below for ease of access. But again, I'll go into each of these in more detail. I first want to show you how you would access this via Teams, which, just like any other team, you should now have a team under your Teams and Channels here on the left-hand sidebar if you've clicked on the Teams button that says Project Central GRP. So under this one, you'll see the homepage, and then you may also see some other project-specific channels. So we'll talk about more why you might see that, how to adjust that. But the one that I want to focus on right now is our homepage. So if you click on the homepage, initially you're not going to see much outside of this welcome message or any other recent posts that we may have posted there. just from an admin perspective about any other updates. But up at the top here is where you're going to be able to access some additional items. So this shared tab, that's where files are located for the most part. You're not going to be utilizing a lot of the files in here, although the portfolio training guides are in here. We also have a different link to that. But primarily, any project-specific files are actually going to be located in their own channel. The portfolio tab, that's going to take you to the Microsoft list that actually contains all of our projects and workflow audits. So those pipeline, active, and closed sections that I was just reviewing from the Project Central SharePoint page. We also have a tab for the executive dashboard. If you want to view it straight from Teams, it's embedded here as well. It's just a moment to load up, but then you'll see that executive dashboard. And then a couple links that will take you to an external page. So the portfolio training guides. If you click on this, it's going to open up in SharePoint that folder. There's nothing in here yet because, as you can see right now, I'm making the training video. So this video will be in there once it's completed, and it's probably where you clicked it from. And then also, if we go back to Teams, we have the Project Central SharePoint page tab up at the top here. If you click that, it's also going to take you to that Project Central SharePoint page. So in case you want to share that link with another stakeholder, then that's how you can do it. Or if you just prefer to access things this way, I personally prefer to view the portfolio from SharePoint. I find it just that the view contains a little bit more because there's less information on the sidebar and at the top. But it's really just a preference thing. Any updates made on SharePoint or Teams, they're going to be in sync with each other. It's really one unified thing, just kind of two different ways to view and access it. So let's look at it by way of these links here. If I go to the pipeline, we're actually going to start with some of these portfolio views and then come back to the dashboard. So if I click on pipeline, it's going to take me to the portfolio. As you can see, each of these projects have a status of one of our pipeline statuses. So in this case, it's the intake meeting for the MDO project. A couple of these are in benefit analysis. And that's all we see because we only have these 3 projects in pipeline. So how do we see all of the other views? Up here, you can see some that already are appearing. And then there are some additional views here if you click these double arrows. With Smartsheet, we had different sheets, so completely different web pages for each of these different categories. So we had an active projects sheet and then a closed project sheet. Now all of these are on one single table, which is the portfolio. And we filter both the rows and the columns that are relevant based off of these views. So I'm actually going to go to the all items view. This is where if you wanted to just see literally all the information that we have within the portfolio, you can do so. So right now we have, I believe, 168 projects in here, or projects and workflow audits. So quite a few. Really kind of contains our entire historical archive. And then all of the columns. So I believe there's around 60 columns that contains all of the information that we would have collected, similar to the pipeline active and closed sheets, as well as a realized ROI tracker in Smartsheet. All of that is now here in one table. Now, if I go back to the pipeline view by clicking those arrows, then what I want to show you is, again, it filters down to just those 3 rows that are relevant, but it also filters down the number of columns. So when we're in pipeline, we're not going to be realizing any benefits yet. So all of those columns where you track the realized benefits, those are going to be excluded from this view to make it easier to focus on what sort of information we're actually expecting to be documenting at this point in the process. So it's helpful to be able to navigate between each of those. So just to run through the rest of these, this is pipeline. I showed you all items. We have active audits. So these are going to be our workflow audits that are currently active. Our active projects, so any project that's currently being worked on by the team. Our closed audits, so anything that's been completed or rejected. So we either completed it, we actually completed the workflow audit, or we rejected it. It was something that was we decided ultimately to not do. And then same thing for closed projects. So both rejected and completed projects will sit here so that we can see things that were either not completed or that we actually did complete, but either way, we have an archive of that information. And then the realized ROI tracker. So we had a separate realized ROI tracker previously. Nice thing about this now is you have one line for a project from beginning to end. It enters the pipeline all the way through the time that we're realizing project in the ROI tracker. It's one line, but you'll see that this one is filtered down to just the rows in which we have some of the high-level project information, such as the individuals assigned to it. We'll have the ROI toolkit linked here. You see that we don't have it for all of these, but as we continue this process more, this will be a great way for our project sponsors or other leaders to be able to find those ROI toolkits and access them. And then our realized benefit information. So you can see our total estimated benefit. I'll expand this a little bit so you can see the view a little bit better. So ROI estimate benefit annualized. And then when does our ROI benefit period actually start? So let's look at this anesthesia optimization case. For this one, it was September 1st, 2023. And then, previously we had gone in each month and then updated the overall total for the fiscal year. How much benefit had we realized up to that point? To enable some of the trending capabilities that we want to have in our reporting, we now have this broken out on a monthly basis. So once you enter your benefit period start month, then it will automatically generate in these ROI benefit month 1, month 2, month 3, and so on columns up through month 12, what month that is. So in this case, because month 1 was September, or our benefit period start date was 9/1, then our month 1 would be September 23, month 2 would be October, and so on and so on. So then when the time comes, if we were back in 2023 and it was September, I'd go in here and enter how much had been realized for that month. You'll notice for these that are pre-populated, it's the same value over and over. So basically I went back and broke out our benefits over a 12-month period, and they're just going to look like a linear realization. But as we start to utilize this process going forward now, we'll see how much is actually realized over time, and it won't be always the same month to month. So I'll probably come back to the realized ROI tracker in a little bit, but just kind of wanted to give an overview of the different portfolio views holistically. So if we look at this in Teams and I go to the portfolio tab, you'll see the exact same thing here in terms of our views. We have active audits, active projects, and all items up at the top, closed audits. And then also if you click this double arrow here, then you have access to all of the other views as well. So you can filter down to the specific view that you're looking for when making edits to the project. So then let's see okay. And then in terms of project channels, so I'll talk a little bit more about how these get created, but we have the home page here. So under the Project Central group, we have the home page, which again is going to take you to this where you see all these tabs. But then we also have project specific channels. So in this case, we have the denials transformation one. If you click into this, then this is where rather than creating a new team for your project, you would have a channel. And within this channel is where you would house all of the project documentation that would follow this standardized flow. So we have 8 different folders here: initiation strategy, business case and ROI, project planning, workflow and process design, execution and monitoring, change management and comms, project closure. and archive is going to be the same for each project. And within each of these folders, we have the templates that we use across our teams, such as the project plan, the project charter, those types of items. I'll come back to how these are created, but just want to call out the different channels that we have here as well. Okay, so then if I go back to the portfolio, want to show, if we go in here and need to make any sort of edit, how do we actually do so? So there's two different ways. Let's say this, let's go to our active projects. All right, so I'm looking at the active projects here. Let's say for this denials transformation project, we want to edit it. As you can see, if I'm just clicking in here, nothing happens. But if I click on the, double click on the title. Oh, sorry, didn't like that I had that checked. So if I double click on the title, it's essentially going to bring up all of the columns again, but in this form view. So you can go through here and make any edits you need to. Like if we needed to change the status, we could change the status. Maybe this is being closed. We could set it to closed. I'm not going to make any changes here. We can edit the description. Some of this will already be populated from the project request form. Target intake meeting. Really all of the items that we have the capability to edit will be here in this form. Also, if you want to add comments, so I know we do this in the pipeline quite a bit, then you can add a comment directly here in the sidebar. That will be contained here in case you want to reference back to it. You can also tag other individuals and they'll receive a notification. Also, from this view, if you want to add a comment, you can click on this add comment box that pops up. That will take you back to this screen as well, where you can add a comment. Additionally, you can delete rows if needed in case there's something that was added accidentally. You can share. But one thing that's very useful is the edit in grid view. So say we do actually just want to make an edit within this view. This is kind of what we're more used to from the Smartsheet. So if we click on edit in grid view, you can see now I can actually click into these individual fields and say if I wanted to make an update to this one. So let's say actually this is not confidential. We could set it to no. I'm going to go ahead and change that back to yes. But we can go through and really edit any of these fields in a very quick fashion this way. So this is the way that I would actually recommend doing it. There are some fields in here that are calculated that won't let you edit them. For those, you can leave them alone, but for the rest of these, you should be able to edit very similar to Smartsheet. Okay, and that's essentially how you edit the row. So we've talked about how to access the portfolio, how to access different views, and then how to edit the rows. Let's go back specifically to the ROI tracker view, because this one is a little bit different. Again, on this one, we have our projects. So these are any projects that have an ROI benefit period start date defined. Because sometimes we have projects that are active, sometimes we have projects that are closed, that are already realizing benefits. So as soon as you populate the ROI benefit period start date, it's going to appear in this realized ROI tracker view as well. Also, it's going to go ahead and populate those month 1, month 2, month 3, and so on that we indicated. And again, for this one, say it's a denials transformation, and we've gotten to September 2027, and we're ready to start populating how much benefit it's been realized. Then I'm already in grid view here. We can click into the ROI benefit period amount month 1, enter whatever that value is, and then we're good. As soon as you click off, it already saves, and that's all that's required. But for this one, next month for month 2, rather than going back in and updating this value that I've already entered, I'll leave that one as is, and then enter the value that we realized in month 2. So this isn't cumulative, but rather it's how much was actually realized within that specific month. So as long as you're entering those, entering the start date and then populating the months as they come, then that information will be accurate and will reflect in our Power BI report and that executive dashboard accurately. So one more thing from this view that I want to navigate to is just the request form. So the request form, we're going to provide you all with a link to update your email signatures with if you're on the optimization or performance excellence teams, just like we had for the Smartsheet link. That way it makes the link freely available to other teammates that we're interacting with so that they have an easy way to find the request form. There's a link directly from the Project Central page, where if I click on request a new project, that's going to take me directly to the optimization PE team initiative request form. So this should look pretty similar to what we have in Smartsheet. We've refined it a little bit, added a few things around OKRs that are going to be useful. But this is how a requester would essentially submit a request. If you want to access that link from Teams, you can also do so up here, regardless of what view you're in, you can click on Forms and then click on the Optimization PE Team Initiative Request Form. And that should let you navigate to this. This is actually how you edit it. So we would rather you utilize the link from the Project Central SharePoint page. But another way you can do it, let's see, is to just take the link right here. And then you can provide that link to a stakeholder, sponsor, whoever else may need it if they're looking for a way to request a project. One more thing on the views that I did forget to mention from the Project Central, I kind of went over how we have these different buttons here. What that's going to do from the Project Central homepage is if I was to click on active projects, and that's going to take me to the portfolio view within SharePoint. But as you can see, it's going to already have that active projects view selected. So if somebody's not as familiar with the portfolio views and how to change them, if they navigate to the Project Central homepage on SharePoint and then utilize these links, they should be able to get to those different views that they need. In terms of actually filling out the project request form, it's pretty straightforward, but I'll kind of walk through an example here. So if I was the requester, I'll put my name in. And it should be linked to our global directory. In this case, I guess it's being a little bit slow. We'll put in RCM optimization as the department. Initiative 1, 2, 3. Missed a letter here. And then once we select an initiative type, it's actually going to cascade to some additional options. So if I select project and then give it a project category, let's say automation, we'll say I do have sponsor support. I would put in that sponsor's name. If it is related to an OKR, then we'll say yes. And then we're going to add a field here too to prompt you to select which OKR it's related to. If we already have a demand or PRJ open, we can enter that value here, indicate whether or not Epic Build is likely required. And then really the meat of the request, describe what the request is, what the goals are, what constraints we may have, and then how long we expect it to take, what kind of timeline sensitivities we have, and then who are the teams and individuals involved. And then lastly, what kind of benefit information do we have? Do we have any idea of what the different ROI types are? And then if we've already completed a benefit estimate, what is the estimated total? If not, then it'll be something that we work through as part of the intake and benefit estimate processes of the intake process. And then we have the ability to flag whether or not this is a confidential project. Doing so should filter it out of any sort of public reports. And then we can attach any files if we do have those. It looks just a little bit different if you indicate workflow audit. So you would just indicate what workflow audit type you're choosing here, whether or not you have sponsor support, and then kind of go through a lot of the same fields describing the request for the workflow audit. Now, once a request form is submitted, then that's going to automatically populate our portfolio. So it would appear in the pipeline view. It would also appear in the all items view. And it's going to send an email to all of the individuals that are part of the performance excellence and optimization team distribution lists, saying there's a new project that's been submitted. Here's the description, and here's the link to access it within the portfolio so you can review more of the details. And then just as we do today, we will review those on a weekly basis as a group to assign discovery owners, review the request, talk about next steps, all those different things. It's also going to do something else. So the test case that we most recently had was the denials transformation project. So I already kind of showed how there's a channel here, but you actually don't need to do anything to create that channel. That's going to automatically be created anytime that a project request is submitted, or we manually add a project line to the portfolio. So let's say this denials transformation project, we just received this as a new project request. We already have this denials transformation channel created. Also, all of these folders that I showed earlier are going to be automatically created for you as well. So there's nothing that you'll need to do. It's already going to be in there. So if you're a discovery owner, things that you would need for part of the initiation process, we already have folders to utilize. You would store any assets here. And then if you ultimately become the project owner, you'll use this same channel going forward to execute the project. Also, like I mentioned, within these folders, we do have our templates already in here. Those also will be automatically populated. So no longer do you have to go out and search for the template that you need. It should all already be here. And if you do find that anything isn't getting copied over, or we have new templates that we want to include, then we can certainly include those as well. So we have the charter template. We have under the business case and ROI, our ROI toolkit. Under project planning and project plan, we have our project plan template, which is a Microsoft project template. And I'll come back to that at the end of the video to kind of talk through how to utilize that project plan template, since it's another thing that we've moved away from Smartsheet on. And then project closures. I believe that we have our project closure template in here as well. So really any other documentation that you create as part of the project, we would house here. And then we can provide access to our stakeholders to these folders so that they can come in, find the information that they're looking for easily, and it'll be displayed to them in a standardized format that they can understand easily. So as I mentioned, there's going to be a new channel created every time that a new submission is submitted. Not all of these are going to be relevant to you. So let's say the denials transformation channel is one that we don't want to see because, I'm not assigned to this project. Then what I can do is just click these three dots and then say hide. So if I hide that channel, then once I click off it, I'm no longer going to see it. So it's not cluttering up this view for me in terms of these channels. If I do click see all channels, then you are going to see that denials transformation project here, and I can undo that by clicking show, and that's going to bring it back up to this channel list. I'll say this is a project that we actually end up rejecting, so we don't need the channel at all. You can also click on these three dots and then click delete channel or archive channel. That's going to remove it from this list as well, because we're not going to need the channel. One other thing for project documentation that I want to call out back from the SharePoint view. So you'll notice this project documentation button here on the Project Central homepage. If I click on project documentation, that's going to take me to a view within the Project Central group that's going to say, give me any of the files or the file folders that are within channels. So it's going to look very similar to that list of projects or list of channels that you saw within Teams. So in this case, you can see the homepage one, the denials transformation one, and then this PC admin. That's just the one that we're using to kind of work on setting all of this up. As we add more projects or new project submissions are completed, then we will see a listing of all the projects here. And this is where, if you're a project stakeholder, you're most likely to navigate to find the project documentation that you're looking for. And if I was to click on denials transformation, then just from this view, just as you saw in Teams, I could access that project documentation, find the toolkit if that's what I'm looking for. And it just makes an easy way to increase transparency in our project to make sure that our stakeholders have access to those types of things. You may need to, if you are the the owner of the project, adjust access. So if you were to click on these three dots, you can click on Manage Access, and then you can make sure that the individuals within your project team have access to this if you'd like them to access those files. So I think that's about it in terms of new project requests and documentation. There are a couple of notifications that you may receive once we go live with this. What we have are, as mentioned, the new project requests. So anytime that a new project is submitted, you'll receive that notification, that email that says, hey, a new project has been submitted. Come take a look at the details. And then also we have two kind of alert notifications at this point set up. There may be more in the future, but these are just kind of common data entry errors that we want to make sure that we're catching. One of which is that for any active projects, we should have a benefit estimate. And so if there is an active project that does not have a benefit estimate populated, then it's going to send you a weekly alert just reminding you to say, hey, come in here and make sure that you're populating that column. And then also any projects that are active that have an end date in the past. So that means either we need to update our end date, or that, because we're not done with the project, so we need to extend it, or that the project actually is closed. We just have forgotten to update the status. So you'll go in and update the status to completed. That would clear the notification. Otherwise, you'll receive a reminder notification weekly for that as well. So that's it for notifications. I think that's really all the information in terms of the portfolio view here. Next, I want to go to the Power BI report and go through that in a little bit more detail. So I'll click on the Executive Dashboard tab here, or from the Project Central homepage, I can click on the Executive Dashboard button here. I'll actually look at it from this SharePoint view, Power BI Online view, because I think it brings it up a little bit larger. And similar to the executive dashboard that we have within Smartsheet, this is meant to be something that we can provide to groups like the senior leadership team so they can understand at a high level the benefits that we're producing, the active projects and workflow audits that we have. And then the cool thing about the Power BI report is we can actually do a lot more slicing and dicing here if we want to get into any sort of specifics. So the first tab that you're going to see here is the executive summary. I'll just go through each of these metrics piece by piece. At the point that I'm recording this, we are still refining the sum. So the data is obviously going to look a little bit different by the time that you're viewing this, but the metrics should be very similar. So this refreshes on a daily basis. The benefit performance metric here, this is essentially for this fiscal year. So at this point, fiscal year 2026, how much we are expecting to realize by the end of the fiscal year, and then how much we have realized. So that's going to be this blue bar filling this up, and then how much we would have expected to realize by this point in the fiscal year. So as you can see for this one, we're actually right on track at 30.6. But we expect to get to 48.3 by the end of the fiscal year. For the all-time benefit analysis, this is just out of all of our projects that we have in the portfolio, both those that are currently active, or anything that we've closed in the past since we've started tracking. How much have we estimated our projects to be valued for, and then what have we realized out of that? And then project stats, so what do we have active, both currently, or what have we opened up all time? How many total projects have we ever had? How many have been opened or closed in the current fiscal year? And then how many were opened or closed in the previous fiscal year? For project performance, this is kind of a breakdown of the same benefit information, but by fiscal year. And so we can see for each of these fiscal years, the benefit estimate, which is the lighter blue color, and then how much was ultimately realized in that fiscal year. And then this line moving through the graph is a count of how many contributing projects there were within that fiscal year. So you can see for FY 2024, we estimated 8 million, realized 10 million, and we had 32 projects. That was whenever we first kind of started this tracking process. So we had a lot of smaller projects that we were putting in there from previous years. So you can see for FY 26, we have 16 projects, and where we have an estimated and realized amount of 31 million at this point. This estimate versus duration is kind of a juice versus squeeze type of graph. So basically, how long have our projects taken compared to how much of a benefit estimate they have? Ideally, the best or the most valuable projects are those that are going to be higher up on the benefit estimate scale and lower on the project length. So it doesn't take us much time, but we can realize more benefit. Like this LCD CCI informational modifier automation review. It's 3 months long, but had a benefit estimate of nearly 10 million. That's abnormally good. So great project there. These that kind of take a lot longer but have lower benefit estimates may just be something for us to think through in terms of how we're prioritizing projects going forward and kind of tracking that performance over time. And then this bottom graph here is a list of either projects or workflow audits, depending on the button that you click. It will kind of pop back between those two. And then they'll be listed out based off of the status that you choose here. So right now, these are all of our active projects. I can also look at anything that has been completed, or maybe I want to know what's in our pipeline. What are we working on for benefit estimates right now? And I can kind of slice and dice through our project portfolio. The most relevant one for most of the leadership team is going to be what projects are we actively working on. And it shows their start and end dates, our benefit estimate, who the owner is, and who the sponsor is. So that's the executive summary tab. The project analysis tab is where we can really slice and dice a little bit more. So we have some similar all-time stats in terms of how many projects we've completed, the benefit estimate, realized benefit, our variance, so kind of how close we are to our benefit estimate for our realized benefit. And then we have active project distribution. So this is a little bit skewed right now. We're working on correcting this, but it'll identify how many projects each of us are working on and the length of those projects. So if you're a project owner, it'll give you essentially 1 for each project. And if you are a project member, it'll give you 0.5. And then it will break those out by whether the project is short, medium, or long, and then give you a total here. So the useful thing about this is to say, if we have a new project coming up, then maybe who has capacity. Same thing with projects by team, just kind of tracking where projects are landing between optimization, combined performance excellence, or we shouldn't see this once it's corrected, but in some cases, if something's not populated, it's appearing there as well. All of this, though, can be filtered based off of these filters on the side. So let's say I actually just want to see active projects. Then that's going to filter some of these tables as well, or some of these graphs, as well as this flexible scorecard table. So as you can see now, all of these are things that are currently active. So this contains both workflow audits and projects. I could also, let's say I want to get down to just projects that that I'm working on. So payer alerts process and the project portfolio transition. These are ones that I'm the project owner of. There are going to be other projects that I'm a part of as the project member. If I was to select that, so you can see more of those. Maybe we just want to see projects instead of workflow audits in this information. We can also change the initiative type. We need to add initiative type. Let's say we wanted to get information for kind of our sponsors, to say, you know, maybe Noel is interested in what are all the projects that he's a sponsor of right now. These are both for sponsors and these are both for workflow audits and for projects. So you can, you know, use these filters to get down to certain information that you're looking for. For the flexible scorecard, this is kind of like a listing of everything that we have right now based off of the information that we have selected here. So you can see that we want to see initiative, sponsor, benefit estimate, realized benefit, and realized percentage. So that's what we're seeing in these columns. You can change around the columns to say, you know, actually I want to see, let's include owning team and the project owner. And so now we're actually going to see those in this table as well. So if you're trying to get to a table of information that we have for our projects or for a subset of projects, this is how you can get to that, that specific information of a subset of projects. And then lastly, details and resources. So this is really, so this has a link to the SharePoint site just for ease of navigation. And then it's really sort of a raw export of our portfolio information if it's needed. We're also going to be adding metric definitions to this page as well, so that if there's any questions about like, hey, what's the difference between benefit estimate and realized benefit, things like that, we have the definitions included. But that's the Power BI report. We are going to be refining this over time. And so if you have any feedback, then definitely please reach out to me and Greg Gustafson. And we'll continue working on making this a really useful view for some quick insights into our project portfolio. And the better we keep the portfolio updated, the better this reflects the reality of our projects as well. Okay, so I think the last thing is just to go back to the project plan. So that this covers all of our project portfolio, as well as our Power BI executive summary. So I mentioned that for projects, we will now be using Microsoft Project as our project plan. So if you go into project planning for your project and then project plan, you're going to see this project plan template.mpp. So this is a Microsoft project file. So I've clicked on it, so it's opening up on my other screen over here. So let me pull it up. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be our blank template. This will look very similar to what we had in Smartsheet, and it behaves very similarly as well. So if we insert a project name into this one, so in this case, this is going to be denials transformation. So if I click on that and then type in denials transformation, it'll give our project plan a name there. And then we can go through and, just as we would before, start planning out what are the different activities we're going to be doing in each of our phases, like planning, execution, monitoring, and closing. Each of these roll up and can be collapsed and expanded. So I'll start by just collapsing these by clicking on that little triangle. So you can see just the title summary row, as well as our phases. And then if I open up, let's say execution, say I'm working on the execution phase here, we have the kickoff activity, which is our milestone. Anything with a 0-day duration is going to be a milestone. So it's going to appear as this diamond. It's also going to appear on the dashboard in a moment that I'll show you as a milestone. And then we have different phases. So maybe these are different phases or different deliverables that you have as part of the project. And then our tasks or activities underneath. So say you want to change things around and adjust this so that we actually have one more phase, you can always right click on the row and say insert task, and that's going to add a new task. But as you can see, this is falling under phase 2 here. If I click on this, and then up here we have these indent and outdent task buttons, very similar to Smartsheet. I click on outdent task, and you can see this is now lining up with phase 2, so it's its own phase. We can title this as phase 3. And then if I add another task under here, and then indent that, it now falls under phase 3. So that's how you can add on to this a little bit. Otherwise, in terms of editing the values here, it's pretty straightforward. You can retitle these activities with the task names that you're actually inputting, provide it with a start and finish date. And then once you do that, it's going to update this expected completion percentage. So as you can see, I've got 520 to 520, so just one day on each of these. And 520, 2026 is in the past, so that's why it's going to say 100%. Once you have your date set up, then this is going to accurately track based off of today's date, how much we should have complete. And that's going to drive the status as well. So let's say I've actually completed this one 100%. You can see that the status changes to complete. The expected completion column, we won't edit. We'll leave that one as is, but this percent complete is what you'll typically go in and update on a weekly basis or so whenever you're editing your project plan. So really from there, you would just build out your project plan. It should be pretty straightforward in terms of setting that up. You can provide assignees in this column as well. And if you go down to the bottom right here, so you can see that there's these few different buttons. So we have Gantt chart, and that's going to be kind of our home page here. If we go all the way to the right to this one that looks like a blank page, it says blank report. If we click on that, then we've actually already have a project dashboard that's defaulted in here that we've created. So it's going to pull in the title from that A1 cell that you populate with the name, denials transformation. And it's going to give you the overall project status, which in this case is late because we haven't built anything out yet. It's going to give you your project start and finish date, your phase progress, so for planning, execution, monitoring, and closing, what the start and finish of each of those are, and percentage complete. Schedule tracking, so how much have we expected to complete overall versus how much we have completed. Tasks by status, so how many do we have not started, in progress, on schedule, or late. And then our milestones. So this is where, indicating those milestones with that 0-day duration is important because it'll pull those forward onto this table as a milestone. And that'll indicate the milestone name, its start and finish, and percentage complete. Tasks in progress, so anything that's in progress right now will get pulled into this table. Tasks starting soon, so anything starting within the next couple of weeks will get pulled into this table. And then completed tasks, anything that we have marked 100% complete will get pulled into this. So for me and my projects, I've been taking a screenshot of this and putting it into the slide deck for those project status updates. And it's an easy way to give kind of like a holistic view about the tasks of the project, kind of how on schedule we are. If you do need to move anything around, you can click onto these. Say the milestones gets pretty populated. Because we have a lot of milestones, you can move things around, and then you can zoom in and out to make sure that you get the view how you want it. But in terms of populating it, you won't actually populate anything directly from this view. It'll all come from the project plan. So as long as you've got this up to date, then those should be reflected in the dashboard automatically. And then if you were to hit save here, it's going to save back to that file that's contained in the project channel. And so this can be a shared file across anybody that's a part of the project team. So whether it's you and the other project team members or the other program managers that are accessing this and editing this, or maybe you even want to give access to your sponsor, you can do that, and any sort of updates will be automatically visible to all of them. So I think that is everything. We went through Project Central, how to access both the SharePoint page and how to access the portfolio from Teams, how to get to the different portfolio channels and project channels, the portfolio itself, how do we change the different views, how do we edit the rows. We looked at the ROI tracker view in a little bit more detail and how we would update that on a monthly basis. We went through the Microsoft Forum overview, so how you would access that, and how projects would appear in our pipeline from that form, and then some of the flows and notifications that would occur as a result. So creating a new channel automatically with all the project documentation folders and the templates, and how you could hide those or remove those if not needed. The notifications for new projects, missing ROI and end date in the past. And then we looked at the Power BI report, so how to access that, an overview of the metrics and how we can pivot and filter to some of those different metrics. And then we looked at Microsoft Project for our project plans, how you can set that up and actually run your project using the Microsoft project plan. So I think that's everything in terms of our move away from Smartsheet to the Microsoft tools. And I hope that this will be a great benefit to us in terms of more transparency, ease of use, and reduce costs for the team. So let me know if you have any questions. You can also reach out to Matt Sandlin or Greg Gustafson. We've worked together as a team on setting this up and are happy to answer any questions. Thanks for watching.